Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer at Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for the first trading day of October. It is Monday. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So quick themes of the day, and then we will talk about some concepts here. Just as a reminder, tomorrow will be just member-only video at the end of the day. So you can sign up to receive that if you like to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group, but tomorrow will be member only video, just a reminder. So themes of the day, weak breadth. Once again, just a lot more decliners than advancers. If you look at the performance of the day over here, one of the things, so you're going to see there's a lot more red groups for the day, a lot more groups that went down like over 2-3% for the day, and only a couple groups were actually higher for the day. But the groups that did perform well are the bigger, are bigger weights in the S&P. So they kind of masked a little bit the weakness in the overall market. You may look at that as a positive. You may look at that as a negative. If you are more positioned, for example, in tech stocks and areas that did well today, you're probably like, this was not a bad day. If you're in a more diverse portfolio, then you're probably not too happy with the overall performance of the day. And there are no right or wrong answers here. It's basically like at the end of the day, it's whether or not you made money. Right? That's how you can tell if you've traded well and so forth. That's your report card. But it is good. I think it makes sense to understand what kind of a market that we're in right now. And that is a very weak breadth market. Also, a couple things that I talked about in the weekend, our member weekend video, is what rates in the dollar are doing. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but these things are still cranking higher, both interest rates and the dollar. So we'll start with the dollar. Yes, ultimately, I do believe that this gets up to that 30.17 line. But as I said last week, when this got super overbought, the RSI was an 80, then it came in a little bit, burned off that overbought level. RSI right now is still a 75. But price may not get there in a straight line, but my thought is that the dollar continues to get stronger here until the trend is broken, right? And you could look at this, of course, a couple different ways, right? Some people like to look at just the interest rates. The opposite, bonds move inversely. So if you want to look at what the 30-year bond did today, that did take out the lows from last week, but it kind of still hung in there. TLT was down another 2%. That did close below last week's lows. So, I mean, there is still some heavy selling pressure going on right now in bonds, which is lifting rates higher. So those are two of the things that I think are must watches, and along with the breadth. I mean, that's really it, guys. And then of course the price action. So yes, I got a lot of this today, but the stocks were acting well. Well, what stocks, right? NVDA got a nice upgrade from Goldman today, or they put it on their conviction list. Zscaler was also mentioned over there, and I think that really kind of helped things. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'll go over the indices in just a second, but here's the seasonality. Everybody talking about everybody talking about two things today, I think, or maybe those three things that some growth stocks did well today. The seasonality, I think everybody is aware of this at this point, but just keep in mind, right? This is just the average seasonality of the S&P. Note that this happens like in the first part of the month, first half, and even like the first half of the month. It's a bit bumpy. So just keep in mind, like you could see a move up, but then you could kind of come in and test the lows. So, this is not like like a silver bullet in terms of like this is going to like get you profits, right? I think you want to use this in conjunction with the other factors that you use, but it's always nice to know when the seasonality is in your favor versus when it's not. But ultimately, to me, you need to see the confirmation. And to see something like this today, right, to me is not really what you want to see. These are the 52-week new highs versus lows. 51, excuse me, 51 new 52-week lows, and just one name that made a new high today. Well, what about the 4-week new highs in the S&P? Were those any better? Oh, well, there is 7 names that made a new 4-week or what, basically 1 month new high, and there's 200. So let me say that again. 7 new 4-week highs today in the S&P. 219 names that made a new 4-week low. So there's, this pressure that's going on with bonds and with the dollar. There's evidence right here. I mean, the overall health of what's going on, under the hood is not very strong. So here's just the S&P chart. Right, we are dangling here on the 200-day moving average. For now, we're holding it, so that's a positive. If you're looking for confirmation, right, because I always get questions like, what do you think the market's going to do tomorrow? I don't know. I'll get more aggressive if we break into the value area for the month. 40, because no one has a crystal ball and knows what's going to happen the following day. Are we oversold here? A little bit. I mean, the RSI right now is a 32. Is it extreme oversold? No, it's not. Right. And we talked about that last week too. A lot of people were asking me about the NIMO last week, the McClellan oscillator. It never got to extreme oversold. Did it get a little bit oversold? It did, right? So ultimately, those are nice things, I guess, to kind of understand. Like if the market is, to me, it's much more of a signal if things are really extreme oversold, but then you're just playing for a bounce, right? You're not playing for a change in trend. I would rather watch for a change in trend. Notice that price has not been able to get above the 5-period moving average, and we're not inside. This is the new value area for October. We're not there yet, right? We're not inside the value area. We're also we did actually make it back inside the value area for the week. So you've got some support to watch. We briefly broke that, but 43.08 would be something to watch in S&P futures. And then on the upside, watch 43.57 as well as 43.70. Those for me are the areas that I'm watching. Right. And again, I'm not, many people try to time the exact bottom or top. That's not me. I'm looking for a trend to change, not necessarily, one day and change in direction. Right. Here's the cues. Yes, definitely looking better. They did hold the bottom of value, that's 359.78. So, and it's also above the 5-period moving average. So yes, this looks better from a relative strength standpoint, but it will just take, one day of a sell-off and you're back outside the value area. So let's hope that this builds off of this, but the first step was getting above the 5-period moving average, ultimately above the 50-day moving average too, right? That would also get me more excited, as well as the breadth, right? As well as more things making new 4-week highs than new 4-week lows. And then also, you could look on the bottom of our screen, you could look at breadth several different ways, right? This is looking at up volume versus down volume. There's just a lot more down volume right now. Right. And we break this apart by exchange, NYSE, NASDAQ, and ARCA, which is ARCA's mainly a lot of ETFs. So, and then, of course, if you wanted to slice it this way, this is QQEW, right? This is the Qs equally weighted, right? This is not inside the value area, right? So this is taking the same 100 names in the Qs and equally weighting them. And same thing with RSP. Right, RSP, which is the equally weighted S&P, right, looks horrible. This is below the 5-period moving average and closed at new lows, new multi-month lows. Sorry, I can't speak today. But yeah, I mean, so that's not a good looking picture. What about we didn't even get to IWM. What did IWM do? IWM closed below last week's lows. So that's not so I get that some people are like, they get excited because they're like, oh, NVIDIA went up today. But, I think that's great if you're just have 2 or 3 positions, right? But overall, I try to answer the question, is the market strong or weak? And the market is weak right now, right? That's IWM. What about the Dow? Right, the Dow is hanging on by a thread too. That's a new closing low as well for the last month, right? For the last few months, right? So again, a hammer bar, so that's a small positive. Now you need to see follow through from that. All right, so I will go over some of these stocks that did well. So for example, if you take the Qs, right, and you look at the movers for the day, there was some positives here. Zscaler got a nice upgrade. This was a name that I was talking a little bit about on Friday, saying it had some nice strength to it. It was put on the conviction list at Goldman today and had nice follow through. In fact, I like what some of the cyber stocks are doing. Right, CrowdStrike had a decent day too. This was up 1.3%. Right, and the cyber ETF that I tend to look at is the CIBR. Still below those moving averages, but not far. So you've got a little bit of relative strength, and I like that. I like that that this group is starting to look a little bit different. I tried trading a little bit of Palo Alto today, and I bailed on it because I think that there may be better names in here. But this closed at 236.77. Cyber's another one. CyberArk is another one. So again, this is this group, and of course, one of the best performers out of this group was Booz Allen, which does a lot of consulting work for the government. So of course, this name outperformed today on a day that the government stays open for another 45 days, right? So that's Booz Allen, and then also if you go through the FANG stocks, I know people call them now something else, like the magnificent I can't even say it, 7. I think you know what I'm getting at. Watch this 306.44. This had an ugly day on Friday, but it didn't lose any of the short-term moving averages. And the short-term, speaking of the short-term moving averages, they're kind of coiled here a bit too. So I think out of this group, I kind of like this, even though I'm not a huge fan of it fundamentally. But 306.44, they did announce those virtual sunglasses or whatever they are. But I thought that was interesting. Google also made a nice bullish, no, not bullish engulfing, but moved a little bit further there. Made some more progress today, and up 2.5% today for Google. So not bad. A few other names that I was looking at was I mentioned NVDA, right? This made some progress. It has been making some progress over the last week. Now coming upon, I think that's the 50-day moving average. But clearly that's been a nice move. Could this fail at any point? It could, right? And start to kind of come back in here, because this is not my favorite chart. But it has been advancing quite nicely. It doesn't have to be your favorite looking chart. I like this name better. This is SMCI. This will have to get by that 296 VPOC, but if it does, and if it even if it takes this out and hangs here, now you're above all these moving averages, so a bit more strength, right, in this one. And then Arista Networks, which we talked about this one a bit last week, and this one also got above its moving averages. Akamai, I'm still holding a piece of Akamai, and it's been very, very quiet. This is getting coiled up too, like I think on the 1 hour chart, not so much on the daily. So we'll see if this one can get going again. But for now, I'm being patient and just holding on to it. So I think that's it for today's video. I kind of, I've been overweight some energy stocks, so I got rid of those today. Unfortunately, that was kind of a painful day for me. But look at what the energy stocks have done, right? They've been such a nice area of the market. Friday's candle did not look good. And whoops, let's see if I can just change this really quick. Right, this was what we've seen in many charts, a lower high. I talked about this in the weekend video, that this was not a good-looking candle at all, and a kind of a failure at making a new high here, and some follow-through to the downside. So that's a pretty ugly candle, and just like that, it's below the 50-day moving average. So your strongest area of the market really broke pretty decently, starting with last week. And then the final thing that I know there was one other thing that I wanted to say, right? All the attention on the utilities, right? Which again, big move, another big move in heavy volume, right? Everybody's talking about the utilities, just as like, even if you don't have any exposure, which I don't, because this is these things do well when interest rates are low. They're a interest they're like a dividend proxy or interest rate proxy to have utilities. So, big breakdown on heavy volume. But also, it's not just the utilities, guys. If you look through some of these areas of the market, look at what biotech is doing. Look at what solar is doing. Right? There's breakdowns all over the place. Here's biotech. Right? That's disgusting. That's a move that breaks through the lows not seen since last year. Right? I mean, that's really ugly. What about clean energy and solar? Right? This is another group that's making new lows. So again, I know that the utilities are like in the spotlight, but look through some of these other areas of the market. I mean, there's a lot of really ugly areas right now, right? And of course, gold has been very bad. So I hope that gives you a little bit more of a clear view of what the market is doing. Yes, we'll see if those growth names continue. Also, seasonality hopefully does kick in at some point this month, but I would really wait for some confirmation and some things to improve, such as breadth and such as interest rates and the dollar to cool down. All right, guys, that's it for me. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.